Hello and welcome again. The purpose of this video is to show you how the big integer data type works in Java. So this is a basic program that I have here on Eclipse. So as you can see there, I have this first line of code that is import Java that big integer. So that's what the thing that's gonna allow us basically to just do the computations with big integer and here and define our data types. So the first thing we want to do is, well, how do you define data type of big integer? So the first thing you do is basically what you do with almost all the data types. You start with the name of the data type, so it's big integer. And of course, that's a big B. And I give the name of my data type, whatever name you want to give it. So for example, let's say big num1. That is just the name of my data type or my variable, whatever you want to name it, that's fine as long as you follow the standards of the Java language. And then I make it equal to new and then big integer. And so this is gonna give me the I'm gonna define here my new big integer number. Now inside those parentheses I need to use quotation marks. And the reason I'm going to have to use quotation marks is for big integer is internally considered as a string. So it's a string of numbers basically. So I'm going to just put in a number there. So let's say, for example, something like this. Something a little bit bigger, of course. And let's stop there. So that's not a small number. It's not really big either, but it's kind of okay for this example. Now, of course, so that's the way you define it. So here, this big num that is right here is just the name of my variable, and the rest is just use it to define the number, and this part of here is just the number that I choose. You can put whatever you want in here, as long as it is a number. Of course, because I want to do some operations here, what I want to do is I want to define another number. So the only thing I want to do here is just to save a little bit of time, is I'm going to copy and paste this here, and I'm going to change this variable. Let's say I want to name it 2, and I'm going to define another number here. So let's start with 3 and something like this. All right, so that's enough. And so I have two data types of big integers, so that's going to be how do you define big integer. Now if you want to read this from the console or from other input, the only thing you have to do is just put the name big integer, the number of the variable, and semicolon if it's only 1, or comma 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 and semicolon if you're gonna define more than 1. Of course, the idea here is with these two numbers that I have here, I want to do some operation. Now, what is the operation we saw first in the last video? Well, one of the basic operations is remainder. So I'm gonna take the remainder of, let's say, the big number divided by big number 2. So let's put the next line. This is gonna give me a big integer again of the same type, big integer, and let's say this is I'm gonna call it answer 1, let's say. And so what is the operation I want here? Let's say, for example, I want to take my big number 1 and divide it by the big num 2, and I just want the remainder of that. So I just put the name of my variable here, big num1, and then remainder. As you can see that that and then Eclipse gives me all sorts of options for this. So the first one, as you can see, is a little bit small. It says add big integer. I don't want to add them. I want to get the remainder. So I'm just going to type remainder, and it gives me that option. I'm going to press enter. So it's that remainder the second number, which is big num2, and of course semicolon. So that's it. That's how you compute the remainder. So big number 1, remainder big number 2. That's a little bit different from the other operations. Like for example, for integers, you don't do it like that. You don't do it with dot. For integer, is usually what you have is just a percentage sign. So in this case, it's a little bit different. So that's it. That's how you compute the remainder. Now, of course, if I run this program, nothing will happen because I'm not asking to print anything. So let's print it out. Let's then that out. That print line. Let's say, for example, print line. And let's just say I want to put something in there. So let's say For example, the remainder is whatever the answer here will be. Answer. All right, so answer 1, right? All right, so that will give me, if I run this program, what's going to happen here is I'm going to take this big number that is here, divided by this, and it's going to give me the remainder. So let's try to do that. So I'm going to save it, run it, and let's see what happens. All right, so I get my answer there, which is this big number here. I'm not sure if you can do this with the calculator, depending on how many digits your calculator might have. These are kind of big numbers for usual calculators. Yours might be really good, so you can actually do it with these numbers. And it doesn't matter how big I take the numbers. Say, for example, let's put this a little bit bigger, actually. And let's do this a little bit more. Let's save again, and run it. And there's no problem there, so that's not our answer. As you can see here, the remainder is just very easy to compute. Just one line of code, basically. The only thing is that you have to be careful how you define the big integer types just in this manner. If you want to define it with inside the program, now you want to read it, just say big integer. If it is only one number, the name of the variable semicolon. Now that's the remainder. Now what's the other operation? Now the other operation we were talking about in the last video, which is important for the program, for this algorithm of square and multiply, is the ability to multiply the numbers. So that's also another way, and which you can just do here. So that's what we have so far here. So let me separate these two. Let's say I want to now find the multiplication. So I'm gonna do the same thing. So let me copy and paste this to save time. So I'm gonna copy and paste it here. And I'm gonna call this answer 2. And then instead of multiplying, I'm gonna do the product. All right, all this is multiply. All right, so that's the operation here for multiplication of those two numbers. So that's gonna multiply the big number that you see there, the first one, times the second number, and it's gonna put it in my variable answer 2. Of course, if I want to print out what it is or see what it is, so I'm just gonna copy and paste here, and that's gonna give me the product. Let's say here the product is. So I save it, I run it. That's gonna give me both answers. It's gonna give me the remainder and the product of those two things. So let me just run this, and that gave me the product. Oops, I didn't change it here. Sorry about that. Answer 2 should be a little bit bigger actually. All right, so there you go. So the second one here is the product of those two integers. All right, so that's how the two basic operations of taking the remainder and multiplying to a big integer works. Now with this idea, you pretty much know how to do or how to implement this in Java. The if loop, we talked about that several times. The for loop, we also talked about that several times in the class. There's a couple of things I haven't shown you yet. One of the things is how to get the binary representation of big integer, which I explained already in the previous video, and how to do the comparison that you also need for the if loop. So, but I'm gonna do that in the next video. So for now, I'm just gonna leave you with this. This is not very difficult, but you have to be careful how you define it because it's a little bit different from the other ways in which you define the numbers. So I'm gonna stop the video here, and I will see you in the next video with the other couple of things that you need for the implementation in Java of the square and multiply algorithm. So I will see you in the next video.